Meet Uncle Sam. He has a lot of bills to pay. Almost $4 trillion worth every year. Uncle Sam's income is a little over $2 trillion per year. To make up the difference, the deficit, he does what most Americans do. He borrows money. When Uncle Sam takes out a loan, he calls it a bond. Bonds can be held by banks, investors, or even foreign governments. Uncle Sam has to promise to pay interest on these bonds, just as you do on any loan you take out. Ever think about paying your mortgage with your credit card? That's exactly what Uncle Sam does. He takes out new loans, new bonds, so that he can make payments on the old ones. All those loans, and especially all that interest, adds up. Right now, Uncle Sam owes about $14 trillion. To put that in perspective, $14 trillion is about the same as the national GDP, the total value of all the goods and services produced by the American economy in an entire year. It's such a huge amount of money that Uncle Sam is starting to run out of people to borrow from, and he's having trouble just paying the interest on his loans. The obvious solution would be to either cut spending or increase taxes. But if he cuts spending, the people that he's spending money on would complain that they don't have money to spend, and that he was hurting the economy. If he tried to raise taxes enough to close this gap, not only would people definitely have less money to spend, he'd probably have riots on his hands. So Uncle Sam chooses the easy way to make money. Just make it. He calls up the Federal Reserve, which is our central bank, and, like magic, dollars are created and deposited in banks all around America. The problem is that the more of something there is, the less it's worth. Same goes for the US dollar. The more dollars there are, the less each one will buy. That's why commodities like gasoline, food, and gold become more expensive when Uncle Sam does his money-making magic. The commodities aren't really worth more. Your money is just worth less. That's called inflation. Remember the foreign governments that lent money to Uncle Sam? When they lent money to the American government, something interesting happened. It made the U.S. look richer, and their countries look poorer. When a country looks poor compared to America, $1 of our money buys a lot of their money. So they can pay their workers only a few pennies a day. With such low labor costs, they can sell their products in America for lower prices than any American manufacturer can. The easiest way for American companies to compete is to move their factories overseas and pay their workers a few pennies a day too. This contributes to a recession. Americans lose their jobs, stop paying taxes, and start collecting government benefits like Medicaid and unemployment. This means that Uncle Sam has even less income and even more expenses. At the same time, the people who still have jobs are desperate to keep them, so they tend to do more work but not to get paid anymore. When your dollars are worth less and you're not earning more of them, that's called stagflation. And this is why Uncle Sam is in a catch-22. He can't raise taxes or cut spending without making the recession worse. And he can't have the Federal Reserve create more money without making inflation worse. For now, he can keep borrowing money, but since he can't even pay the interest on the loans he already has, it just makes his inevitable bankruptcy even worse. Whether it's in 2 months or 2 years, the day will come when Uncle Sam can no longer pay his bills. When that happens, the banks, investors, and foreign governments who are counting on that money won't be able to pay their bills. You see, just like Uncle Sam, governments, banks, and corporations don't actually have much money. Mostly, all they have is debt to each other. If one link in the debt chain stops paying, defaults, the whole thing falls apart. If investors can't pay their bills, corporations won't be able to pay their employees. If banks can't pay their bills, you won't be able to take out a loan, use a credit card, or even withdraw your savings. If foreign governments can't pay their bills, their own banks and corporations will have the same problems. That's called a global economic collapse. It's never happened before, so nobody really knows how bad it will be, how long it will last, or even how we'll eventually get out of it. The house of cards has already been built. There's no painless way to dismantle it now. All we can do is to educate each other about what's actually going on and to prepare for what may be very extraordinary circumstances.
Tonight on the docket, a libertarian hero, a champion of the Constitution, and a stalwart of limited government. He wants to bring the troops home now and end America's involvement in 5 bloody, expensive, and immoral wars across the globe. He wants an end to the biggest Ponzi schemes in human history, also known as Social Security and Medicare. He wants to repeal Obamacare and get the government out of the healthcare business entirely. He wants the government to live within its means and not borrow one more penny to pay back its bills. He's sick and tired of all the money printed and perpetrated by the Federal Reserve that's literally stealing money right out of your bank account. And he wants to end the Fed. And if this champion of personal freedom were able to persuade Congress and the American people of the virtues of limited government, and that it's the only moral and practical solution for a free people and a free society, guess what your income tax bill would be? 0. And with the added bonus that your children won't be on the hook to pay for unconstitutional and unconscionable government welfare and warfare programs that took place long before they were born. Sounds like a great campaign platform to me. Here now, Texas Republican Congressman. Who else could I be introducing this way but Ron Paul? Congressman Paul, it's a pleasure. Welcome here.
Thank you, Judge. Good to be here.
How bad are things in America today?
Very bad. Probably worse than they have been maybe ever. Even though you can look at wartime, Civil War and World War II, very bad. I think financially, we're facing a situation where the foundations were more eroded than ever before because we came out of the Depression, we came out of the war. But today, it's going to be a lot riskier trying to come out of the mess that we are in the middle of right now because we're on the verge of destroying our dollar, and that's a big, big issue.
How did we get there? How did it happen that parties that were supposed to check and balance each other agree on all of these big government, unsound money, we don't need gold, we can print all the cash we want issues, and only now have some of them come to realize the problems that they've caused us, the pit into which they have put us?
I think they thought there was a free lunch, that you could do it, and we were so wealthy that we could get away that for a long time. So people who were in need would go to the politician, and the politician would win votes by saying we can take care of you, and the system tolerated it. But then we became a nation that was concentrating on the material benefits of a free society and forgot about the free society. And we finally got to this point where through the monetary system and the financial system that we had, where we literally exported our productive capacity. So we don't produce anymore, and we depend on debt and borrowing and the fact that we have the reserve currency of the world. So we need more concentration on the principles of liberty and less narrow concentration on the benefits. Yes, the benefits are good, and we want those benefits, but if you concentrate only on the benefits and not on the principles, you'll lose it. A president and the executive branch of government shouldn't be king. We don't need a president as king, and I think that's my main goal, is to show that liberty works and big government doesn't, so therefore I would want to have less power, not more power.
The Constitution says that only the Congress can declare war. But presidents, not just this president, virtually all of his predecessors, at least in the post-World War II era, have acted as if they are kings or maybe princes by taking military into harm's way without seeking the permission of the Congress. How bad is that? How wrong is that for contemporary peoples and for the future when the Congress lets the president get away with that?
Yeah, and I like the way you put it. Why does the Congress let them do that? How did we get here? Why did we give up, the Congress give up their prerogatives, their responsibilities? That probably would baffle the founders, because I think they on purposely designed a system where the Congress would be superior to the other branches, yet now we're the most inferior branch. Our government's going to continue, with us, without us, even if we're not there. So it is astounding, but it's just carelessness. But in a way, indirectly, it's with the people, too. The people tolerate the congressmen who ignore the Constitution and just let things go by. So we have drifted a long way away from the intent of the Congress to an intent of the Constitution to make Congress supreme in declaring when we send young people off to die. And this is both a big geopolitical event, but it's also a big financial event when we allow presidents to do this.
Abortion.
I am pro-life. I think the federal government should be out of it, and when it becomes very, very complicated, it should be handled by state law.
Abolishing certain departments of the federal government, like housing and urban development, energy, agriculture, commerce. Do we need all of that?
No, we don't. That's part of the problem, why we're in a bankruptcy. So we shouldn't have those. We could get rid of 6 or 8, and I think the country and the world would be better off, and we would be a wealthy nation for it.
Does the federal government have any constitutional or moral role in education?
The Constitution prohibits and does not give permission to the federal government to be involved, but puts no prohibitions against local governments to be involved. And it might be a mistake even to the local level, but that's a different issue. At the federal level, the federal government should not be involved in education in any way.
What is your view of the concept of America as an empire? Stated differently, do we need 900 permanent military, I almost can't say this with a straight face, permanent military installations around the world for which the taxpayers are paying and on which American personnel are physically present?
No, we don't need any of those. We need to bring them home. But people, the follow-up accusation is always, oh, you're an isolationist. No, not if you believe in free trade and generous free travel and these sorts of things, that you are not an isolationist because you want to bring the troops home.
How would free trade enhance our relations with other countries as opposed to what President Bush used to call nation building?
Well, the free trade, and the founders talked about this. They believed that if you traded with people, you were less likely to fight with them. And I think a good example would be Vietnam. We fought for 20 years. The French and Americans lost a lot of lives. And then all of a sudden we lose, we come home, and now we trade with them. And we don't think about killing the Vietnamese. China right now, hopefully it continues, since we've opened up trade and commerce with China, we're both better off. So I think it's a very good example. And I think dictators are undermined by having access to our goods and services, and they're more likely to fail if we did have free trade.
Certainly, that's the lesson of the collapse of the Soviet Union. A couple of more specifics. Gay marriage. Does the federal government or the President of the United States have any role to play in that?
No, they should not. As a matter of fact, in my book, I do talk about marriage. I consider marriage very, very important, but I think the state should be out of it. And I would urge all states, I would think all governments should be out of the business of dictating what the definition of marriage is. And that doesn't mean I have to endorse somebody else's opinion, but I shouldn't have others impose their views on me, and I won't impose my views on them. So I think the federal government at least should be out of the business, as well as all state governments.
What should we do about the Patriot Act?
Repeal it. Get rid of the Patriot Act. It undermines and destroys the Fourth Amendment.
Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, now Libya. So should we have troops there?
No, I'd just come home. That's one thing a president could do. He has control. He has authority on the troops. So a president can maneuver the troops. And I guess that's how Obama and other presidents just say, well, we'll move the troops in, as he has, perpetuated our involvement in Libya. So no, we should come home.
Ron Paul, a visionary who predicted the financial crisis, a leader with a plan to solve it. The Paul plan? Balance the budget. Cut $1 trillion year one. Eliminate 5 federal bureaucracies. End the foreign wars and nation building. Rein in the Federal Reserve. Pay down the debt. Cut taxes to create jobs. Ron Paul, a plan to restore America now.
I'm Ron Paul, and I approve this message.